I'd now like to introduce Bob Corby, and I won't say anything about him because I'll get him to introduce himself and he can tell us what he's going to be talking about as well.
Oh, thanks. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for having me along tonight. I'm sorry my speech won't be too long because I'm sorry it's the last episode of Downton Abbey tonight. Roger's got up on the screen the copy of my book, Soldiers of the Mainland Cenotaph. So what I'll do is I'll just read the preface to my book so you get a bit of a background to where I've been coming from. I previously had occasion to do some research concerning World War I soldiers for the centenary of Anzac and found it extremely interesting and rewarding. During the resultant journey of discovery, I was at times extremely uplifted by the strong sense of family and intimacy conveyed over the years by the soldiers' records. Because I spent my childhood in the then out blue-collar suburb of Bedford Park, along with Maylands, Inglewood, Mount Lawley and Bayswater, were all part of my playground. So I saw the Maylands Cenotaph as a challenge to extend my journey of discovery of World War I soldiers. That may sound a bit trite, but back then, those suburbs became one for a kid on a bike or a young soldier who was socialising. As if to demonstrate the strong community links and indistinct borders between Maylands, Mount Lawley and Bayswater back then, the tribute to some soldiers is demonstrated by what appears to be their names commemorated on more than one cenotaph in the area, and the other cenotaphs are Bayswater and Mount Lawley. There's 8 soldiers on the Maylands cenotaph whose names are also on the Mount Lawley cenotaph, and there are 5 soldiers on the Maylands cenotaph who are on the Bayswater cenotaph, but none of them appear on the whole 3. But back to my research. There are 110 soldiers' names commemorated on the Maylands Memorial, each with a sacred link to family and friends who lived in or were very closely connected to Maylands. So what's behind those surnames and initials? Who were they? Where did they live? What did they do for livelihood? Who were their loved ones, and how and where did they die in service to their country? Notes in my book reveal that nearly 1/3 of them were under 21 when they joined. The major trades or professions back then were clerks, steam engine firemen, blacksmiths, farmhands and labourers. One listed his occupation as a piano expert. Whether that was as a piano tuner or player, I don't know. 80% were single. The religion of 60% of the soldiers was Church of England, and the most popular addresses, unsurprising, were Central, 7th, 8th and 9th Ave, Maylands. One soldier gave his address as Main Road, Maylands. I think he meant Gilbert Road. In addition to these personal details in the book, each soldier has his full military service listed, including his embarkation and overseas service records. Now, with due respect for family and friends and loved ones of those soldiers, I trust that my dossier may provide some insight, possible answers or leads for current and future generations to explore, because it was not my intent to apply a definitive resolution in the actual identification of each soldier on the cenotaph. By example, there were there was a J. Young on the cenotaph. I found 2 J. Youngs. One lived in Maylands, one lived in Garrett Road, Bayswater. So, and they both died in service in France. So which one is the subject soldier? Only family or friends could answer that. It is also worth noting that these names were supposedly provided by community members who also funded the actual memorial's creation. And in the transcription of names to the stonemason and the stonemason transcribing to his staff, invariably a few names have been spelt incorrectly. The stonemasons were Wilson and Gray of Perth. Now, they constructed the cenotaph, but I couldn't find any information about them because they went out of business in the 1950s. There's a master list, or that means there's a master list of names on that memorial, but where they are, who's got them, I don't know, but it must exist somewhere. All the data in my dossier was retrieved from official documents held by the Australian War Memorial and the National Archives of Australia, and I acknowledge and thank those entities for that invaluable information. Finally, it is my hope that one day a similar dossier may be produced, which is categorically endorsed by the family and friends as being unconditionally representative of those soldiers whose names appear on the cenotaph. We will remember them. So that's all on that one, Rod.
Thank you very much.
That's this one here. And the Maylands Historical Society have got copies of those if you'd like a copy. We go to the next one. Has anyone seen the WA newspapers online feature Perth Now and Then? No? If you can get online, or get your kids or grandkids to get you online, do Perth Now and Then. They've got images of Perth today, and then you drag a slider across the bottom and it takes you back 100 years of what was there before. So that was the inspiration for my little book here. If you haven't seen the website, go and have a look at it. Then, after joining the Maylands Historic Association, I was drawn to the possibilities of redigitising a 1908 image they had at the Central Hotel in Maylands, and I'll show you that in a minute. This set me off on a path to replicate other historical images I had discovered in an effort to find some footprints through time, which is the title of my book, indelibly left by the generations before and, as it turned out, sometimes after. So what I've done is gone and got an historic image, gone back where the original photographer stood, or as close as I could, taken a picture today and imported a little bit out of the historic image into the new one to give a bit of a perspective, and also vice versa. So, if Charlie Carter's, Alex Trouchet Chemists, Padbury Buildings, Craven's Pharmacy, Cox Brothers Stores, WA Apothecaries, Bocott Buildings, Alexander Buildings, Bones, Beds, Aherns or Moores means anything to you, then you should have a look at this little book. During my current day photo shoots, the concept of being taken back in time became very palpable for me. Palpable to the degree that I felt privileged that I was actually sharing time and space with the scenes of today's culture overlapping with the iconic buildings, the people, lace dresses and bowler hats from the turn of the century. But standing in the middle of the road today to take an image was not as obviously as safe as it was back in the day, horses and carts. However, it was a walk through familiar locations and again seeing iconic buildings, all familiar I'm sure at least to my generation. In closing, I would like to recognise and thank the State Library of WA, the Maylands Historical Association and the Mount Lawley Society for the provision of invaluable images used in this publication. So, thank you. That's it. Now we'll do a little slideshow. What I've taken out of the book are some of my favourite images. This is... Sorry, Rach. Yeah, this is Hay Street in 1860, taken by a famous photographer called Alfred Hawes Stone. And if the stone means anything, remember the Stone Jane lawyers, part of the family. He was a prolific photographer in his day. So that's Hay Street, and that's the same perspective today. I think that building there is the old Easy Walk-In shoe store, for those that you remember Easy Walk-Ins. And in that building now is the Mona Cafe. I'm pretty sure it's the same one.
Next one.
Next one, thanks. So that's the cover of the book. This is 1929. This is looking down Hay Street from William Street, and you'll notice there on the corner, Cox Brothers Economic Stores. I guess we all shop there, didn't we, at some stage? And then what I've done is brought in little portions of the image here, and they just fitted perfectly. So a little bit of adjustment, not too bad. Thanks.
You can actually say vice versa because the people bottom or at the top as well.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. And then some of the later ones have taken people from down here and put them up there. This is a horseshoe bridge north from Wellington Street, and the thing I love about this is this little car here. He must have had some sort of claim over that area because he's in another one I'll show you in a minute. So
can I make that bigger and I'll just move it down?
Yeah. Yeah, so, you know, there's the cop in the middle and this little food vendor here. Look at all the signs, we all remember them, I'm sure. And that's today. There's the bloke with his cart. And just as I took the image, these two blokes rode over the bridge on their bikes. Quite perfect, you know, integration. That's why I call it footprints through time. Now this is looking south down William Street from the Horseshoe Bridge, and that hotel is still there. And yeah, just go down again. And there's the little bloke with his horse. Now whether it was taken on the same weekend or not, I don't know. But he's back again. Note the lady here in a horse and cart in this car here. We scroll up, right? And you see the car and the lady. And just as I took it, this car went through down right in front of the camera, so it worked out perfectly.
It's going the wrong way.
Thanks, Rod. Who remembers the Padbury Buildings ladies? Bones. Padbury Buildings, Michaelides, tobacconist. Now here's one where I just go down the bottom right,
yeah,
please. So that's today, and these two people here, I moved up into the old one because I couldn't move anyone down here from up there. But that's today. Now how it's changed.
Oh, this is so different.
Yeah. Thanks, Rod. Now this is Barrack Street from Rose Street in 1900. Notice the bridge, Barrack Street Bridge.
Oh,
So narrow.
Town Hall.
And there's the town hall in the background. And the little lady with the two kids here and these two old jets. It was only 1 lane wide. That was in 1900. And then that's the same perspective today. The ladies and the gents walking across, and you can see. And we got the. You're right. We've got the tower in the background there, of course. Mine, right there. You can see it. You're right. Thanks, Rod. This is 1868. This is Hay Street. If you're up at Pier Street, if you can envisage being at Pier Street, looking down Hay Street towards the centre of Perth, that's the town hall under construction. And this is obviously, it's probably called some poor convict. But that's the town hall under construction. And if we go down, and that's the same scene today. And there he is.
It takes them about that long to fix it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I mean, some of these old images, as I say, I had to fiddle with them a bit, but they've just gone perfectly. There's no doubt, you know. Thanks, Roger. Now, this is 1900. Don't go down. You know where it is? Don't go down.
Yeah, Bangkok.
You know where it is? Now, this is an advocate for the benefit of underground power. You're standing here, you've got the town hall on your left, and you're looking straight down Hay Street. This is Barrack Street here. Look at it. So that's today, and there's the train and the cop still standing in the middle of the But these buildings, that's still there. That's still
lovely.
You can see the facade. That's Royal Arcade. You remember the Alhambra Arcade? Yeah. That was in there. The Alhambra Bar's downstairs. Yeah.
way there on the left,
That was Alhambra Arcade.
yeah.
It was Alhambra Arcade, and then downstairs was the Alhambra Bars. This is 1907. See if you can pick where that is. You're standing at the intersection of Beaufort Street, going into Perth that way. That's going towards Inglewood, and that's Walcott Street. There's the Beaucott buildings here on the right. See the horse feed in the middle of the road?
Which were added to later on. That same building is still there. It's still there, but they've just added to the top of it.
Yeah, I think they've just gone up on this. You'll see it in a minute. The horse feed's still there. And the Astor Theatre there. Thanks. This is 1914, looking the other way, so now we're looking towards Perth. So you're standing in Walcott Street looking towards Perth. That's the Queen's Hotel there on the left. And that was built in just up a bit, right? That was built in 1889, the Queen's.
Look at all the traffic.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's 40 kilometres an hour there.
I'll tell you what it was
They're
like
going
in
to do
that
about 4.
perspective, standing in the middle of Beaufort Street. I had to get there at 7 o'clock in the morning. And then when I got there, a rubbish truck pulled up at that bin there and made the way to me go. This is the Mount Lawley subway. I'm sure you all recognise that, but whether you recognise it when it was a...
Before it was widening.
Back towards Lord Street.
Yeah, back towards Perth that way. Yeah. And then the train still fits under today. The train. Better show that to the Premier. Now this is the one that set me off on my path, the Central Hotel, with everyone sitting out the front, Swan Lager signs on the door, all the boys standing around chatting. And then I went back and took about, a certain perspective going back, and this is the same one today. You all know it today. Horse rock there, yeah. Yep. Not the authority, that's gone.
They look so much better with the brand.
To show, yes, the brand's gone.
But the boys are still there, and so's this lady, so that like coming out that door, and that lady on the little horse and cart, she's still there. See? So that's the image that set me off on my little journey. Thank you to the Maitland's Historic Research. Now this is, I'm sure you all recognise this. This page down, Ross, quickly. When you see this, you'll recognise it.
Anybody willing to volunteer that they know where that is?
Well, there's a few of us that can, but I don't think it's fair.
Now this bloke, sorry mate, I'll just Clary Waters. I'm trying to get some history on this store. I got that photo from the Maylands Historic Society. Clarence McWaters, he enlisted in World War I in 1915, and his occupation was listed as a produce merchant, so I knew I had the same bloke. And obviously it was taken over by the Wrights later at some stage, so you can show it now. I'll give him that.
Yeah, they signed the wall was beautiful now too, the old signs.
It said exactly the same facade, there's no doubt about it. That's the McWaters produce.
It's going to be covered up, but they're going to reproduce it inside.
Yeah, I want to get a photograph of it, there's a tractor in front of it now.
Now this is, I won't tell you who these people are, they hog the limelight a bit, these people. So we've got Frank, Keith, Karen, Roger, that's it, Vera and Margaret. See, that's back in 1921.
Yeah, that gives us about the right age.
And that's the shot today.
So all the trees block the view.
Yeah, you can't. You just see the memorial just there, and you can see it in the top one. Now, this, before I go any further, ladies and gentlemen, I'm about 3 weeks away from publishing edition 2. So this is footprints, the cover for Footprints Through Time, second edition. I'm using the same, the same background, but I've taken the advantage, please mate. I'm including my son, his wife, and my little granddaughter. So we did that shoot on the weekend, and I've put them in the next book. And these footprints up here were done by Karen and Frank Polar's granddaughter, Emily. She was sitting in the Mainlands Historic Society the other day, and she was drawing like this, and I said, "Gee, you're a good drawer. Can you draw some footprints?" And she went. So I put them in the book. Now, some pages. So, Keith, you'd be interested in this, mate. Some pages from the next book, and I've tended to concentrate a bit on the Mainlands area, so there's not many, but just have a quick look. Did anyone take a photo before this bridge was pulled out?
Yes.
So that's one from the Mainlands Historic Society. I don't think that was yours, Keith, was it? No. No. And the car going under the bridge, that was taken on the day I took it. Because this is history. I mean, that bridge is gone. It's sad. Yeah, bumpy bridge, wasn't it? That's right. Now, no guesses, no prizes for guessing this one. So that's 1906.
Actually, it could be 1904.
Soon the blokes are still there waiting for the pub to open. Or waiting for the coffee shop to open.
The guy that built that also built His Majesty's Theatre,
Yes.
and also the Perth Art Gallery,
Yeah.
Gustav Reed.
We used to have a picture of him.
Now, Keith's going to like this one, Keith.
Okay.
That's Keith's photo. Keith took a photo from the Mainland Station, and I borrowed it the other day. And then I went down to the Mainland Station and waited for a train to come and put him in.
How did Keith get that photograph taken? He must have jumped down onto the fence.
No, it's at the bottom of the walk around. Well, I think it was. Is that?
On the edge of the walk down.
Yeah, down as you walk down, yeah. And see, oh, sorry, it's okay, I'll show you the next one.
Oh, yeah.
So it just gives you a bit of different perspective. And guess where that building is? That building there, behind the train. In town, where do you think it would be? What perspective do you think that picture would take you to if you went straight down the railway line into town?
Yeah, Tito.
That's it, Monty's. There. That's on the corner of Hay and Williams. So you're looking straight at the end of Hay and St George's Terrace. Yeah, that's it.
In the New West.
Which is where Samuel Dawe first arrived.
Okay. And then Roger gave me this the other day, Mainland Station, the old diesel train, but I'm sure we all remember them. See the cyclists, what the bloody hell was he doing there back then?
And Bob, you've got the signal box too, if you have a look on the
Yes.
previous photo.
Where's the signal box?
There, yeah.
Oh, okay.
They had the levers.
And then I waited for another train to come in here, and the bloody cyclist is still there. So that's the end of my presentation, ladies and gentlemen. And so I'd urge you to, if you're interested in that sort of history, I'm sure the Mainland Society is going to do the right thing price-wise. It's up to them what they charge. But I've given copyright on these 2 books to the Society so they can do with them what they like. And I'd like to also recognise David Trainer. Dave came in tonight and he's got some photos and details on some soldiers that he's studying in the Maylands War Memorial as well. And there's the Pollard brothers. I can't recall, but I think there's only two. That's David's work. The Pollard brothers here, these boys. I think there's only two of them on the memorial. And he's also done the McWhinnies. What was that produce store? That was McWaters, wasn't it? Yeah. The McWhinnies and the Peacocks, very prominent on that memorial as well.
That come from the base of the side of the large book.
Yeah. Well, David, good luck with your studies, mate, and I hope you continue on. And over there, I'm sorry I've forgotten you, John. John's in the middle of doing an historical book too, so there must be something to get you sucked in. So anyway, thank you, people. Thank you very much.